I'd love to welcome you to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom podcast, a place for ambitious individuals to capture proud moments on who they've become. It's a discussion that finds insights, the highs and the lows on where they have been at stages in their life. A safe space to share and openly talk about their journey. So if you're on a journey yourself and you're wanting to stretch, go further and farther than you've ever thought was possible, mastering your life is something that will connect you with your identity. I'm excited to be welcoming some very interesting guests to add value to your journey. For more information and to stay in the loop on what Master Your Life is all about and gain more value, head over to www.master-your-life.co.uk. Subscribe to my newsletter and stay in the loop. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I am your podcast host, Luke Beestall. I have a very exciting guest. I think we've just been chatting for like a good 15 minutes before we've tuned on to this. And we were just sharing not just so much wisdom, but some life experiences that actually Cammy is super excited to jump on here today and actually share this with you. But he's also going to go back in a little bit of time and share his story, because there was a moment in his life. I mean, I'm not going to give too much away because it's his stage to share it. He was homeless. He wasn't sure really what his life held for him. And we actually met. And this is what I love. Again, I say this all the time about building a network, community, is we met through an actual fitness business mentorship. And we just connected via Facebook, just kind of followed each other. And naturally what you do, you see each other in news feeds, you just like stuff, share stuff. And I always thought to myself, do you know what? Cammy is a genuine, personable guy. And you can really see that, especially when he works with his clients. So he's smashing it in the fitness industry. He's got a wealth of experience. And he just reached out and said, hey, Luke, I've seen your podcast and been following it for a while. Can I jump on and share my story? And obviously my answer was a big fat yes. So Cammy, it's great to have you on. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully it's useful anyway.
Listen, man, this is your time to shine. But no, it's your time to kind of share the depths of your story. So just so the audience can kind of tune in, understand a bit better about who you are and what you're doing as of this moment.
Yeah, so I am an online fitness coach. I do personal training as well within the gym. My greatest achievement to date is my family. Genuinely, I am a dad, and that is my number one identity. I am beyond everything. My daughter is everything. I genuinely, spending time with her, it just makes my day. It is the single most important thing for me. Yeah, everything's about it.
Brilliant, mate. Just in terms of you doing this fitness coaching, how long have you been in the industry now?
So I've been in the industry since 2004. However,
wow.
Been a personal trainer for 10 years now, an online coach for 5 years now. I've seen a few winters, shall we say. I know I look 12, but yeah.
Oh man,
you're
looking good, man. You're looking good. No, brilliant stuff,
you.
man. No, man, listen, like 10 years, that's insane. I'm actually coming up to 10 years myself, so you've got skin in the game. So if we just kind of go into your life then, I guess before going into fitness, I'd just actually love to know, because obviously you run your own business, you're self-employed. What given you that, I don't know, pathway or door or opportunity to become your own business owner in the fitness industry?
So I know this inside and out, and it's taken me a long time to figure out what drives me. But I'm going to go way back and share from grassroots because it's important to have that, but it's not the main topic of kind of conversation. But from when I was a wee boy, I loved sport. I was the sporty kid. At primary school, I wasn't the cool kid. I was bullied, but that's not the main element of my story. Like, I didn't fit in. Like, I was in a small village and it was just kicked spat on. But my way in was I was good at football. I was fast. So I played with the bigger boys, so to speak. And that meant I had an in. So my internal go-to is I'm accepted if I'm good at sport. That's always been my driver. Like, it's like I get good at sport, I get recognised. And I pushed my football career. And you know those kids at school who in PE, they just turn up and they can do the sport. They're not the most academic, but they could just do the sport. That was me. It doesn't matter what the sport was. And I always just applied everything. And aside from like school being a bit bullied, and like I say, but I do tone it down when I say bullied, because like, to be honest, I'm over it. It was hard, but coming through, my childhood was great. I had a great relationship with my parents. My family was like a unit, and it was amazing. Like, it was honestly, it was incredible. And that was like all the way up into high school. And this is when like my life completely turned upside down the day of me finishing school. And that's where I wasn't prepared for life's challenges. Because a few things happened. My father ran a business, and unfortunately, like, it wasn't successful, and it had a number of impacts. But I wasn't aware of any of this because I was just at school. I was just going for it, going yaldi. And the day of my last exam, I remember I got picked up from my mother at school, and I was thinking, because my big sister, who was always kind of like that competition with, like, I'm heavily dyslexic, and I was always kind of made out to being like the special kid because my spelling was terrible, but I was always in competition to kind of just do that one better. Came home from my last exam, my mum picked me up, and I remember my sister had a big massive party, and I was thinking, right, it's party time, let's go. And I came home, and my mum took us upstairs. My family were in mine and my brother's room. Like, we weren't like a massively wealthy family, but we had nice things. And I shared a room with my brother. And I remember sitting there. My dad was in the room. My big sister was sitting next to the window. My brother and my sister were sitting on the bed. And my mother just said, we're getting a divorce. And she took my younger brother and sister and she left. And my big sister went to uni, and I was just stayed there with my dad. And shell shocked. Like, literally, I was all set for some form of kick-ass party, and
Yeah.
I really didn't know what to do. And I was sitting there waiting, and I was crying my eyes out. I was like, I didn't know what to do. My dad was broken. He went to work the next day, and I was just like sitting there, and I worked at the Castle, which was like a local restaurant nearby. And my best mate from primary school was like there. And yeah, I remember they were asking me how am I, and I just couldn't put this face on, and I just broke down. And it's like, that's the first time ever felt broken, to be honest. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. Like, I didn't. This was not a thing in my life, and emotionally, I didn't know what to do. I was always trying to just protect myself. Like, whenever I was younger and bullying, like, if you react, it makes it 10 times worse. So like, I tried to suppress this, and I just couldn't do that. So yeah, that was kind of like the first kind of point at that moment in time. But then in came the time where I finished school and I got accepted to uni, and I couldn't drive, and I had to leave. And the way I had to leave was like saying I needed to leave my dad. And that abandonment was horrendous, like, because my dad is like my best mate, and I just felt horrible. And I had to go and stay with my mum, who was staying in my auntie's house with my brother and sister. But that wasn't my home. My home was home. I genuinely, I didn't settle. But you know, when you've got a house, but it's not yours, you don't really know if you can go get a biscuit or not, but you want to have 10
Yeah.
biscuits. So you're just kind of like, oh, well, I'll just be polite. That's what was happening. And I then went to uni, and I hit this button of just going, nobody will know how I am. Nobody. And I put on this face of making this new person that just didn't give a shit. It was just like, hell with it. So I drank, I partied, and created like a really arrogant personality. Everything that was not me. Like, I wasn't a nice guy. Like, as in, I was never rude, but I just didn't give a shit. I didn't
Yeah.
care. because I just needed to do something that was just different. And at uni, I carried on, like I knew my strengths was sport. So I always knew that. And I remember turning up and I was with all the sport and exercise science guys, and we had the bleep test. The notorious, everybody does the bleep test at some point.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah. Well, I turned up, and from the night before, we were out in a foam party. I turned up in the same polo shirt, same surf shorts, and my Converse. And I said to the guy that I'd just met, I'm going to win this. And he was like, mate, there's no way. Like, we were absolutely hanging. And there was guys who were down the bottom end, and they were in their like proper running kit. You know, like the runner shorts that they are legally short, that something's going to... Yeah, they take
I know what you're
things...
saying.
Yeah. The uni lecturer looked at me and just went, oh, for goodness sake. And I stood there. The walls were spinning. But we started and we're running. And I will never give up. Never, ever. Because I've always been that kind of like drive. I need to prove to myself. And I started going. First people started dropping out. I'm going. And you just get this numbness of, I can keep going. Like, it's just like you're locked in the zone. Sometimes it can be an emotional thing. Sometimes it can be a challenging thing in business we'll talk about, but it's sometimes it's not healthy. You just keep on going because you're fixated on a target. But it came to people were dropping out, and I was the last one standing. And the uni lecturer came up and shook my hand. And I was like, thanks very much. I held it together. I did spew in the bucket outside. But
yeah, I bet.
But that was just the start. Like, I went to halls the next year because I didn't want to stay at my aunt's house, and my mum was just on the brink of moving out to get her own house. I didn't really settle there, but I had no money. So the way that I worked was, I was at uni. I had 3 jobs to pay to go to uni. I had coach swimming, which I was been doing since high school. That was my first entry to being in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
I worked in Tesco and I worked in a nightclub, and I was literally, I think I worked off of maybe about 2 or 3 hours sleep a day. Like, it was just constant Red Bull, high stim, drinking, partying, just to keep me going. And I was a nervous wreck. I was literally horrendous. But something had to change. So I needed something I could fixate from. So I joined an American football team. Now, bearing in mind, I was like 69 kilos. The wind would have pushed me over. So me going to join the American football team was different. But the reason that I was joining that was I felt I needed to toughen up a wee bit, because I wasn't settled and I needed some kind of like unity. And the coach was probably the first time that I had somebody who saw right through me and supported me. They'd seen that I wasn't right, and I found it quite hard to connect with, because I didn't trust that somebody wanted to help me. So I played one season and I did really well, like really well. And it was so good that I was getting brought into this kind of community. At school, I wasn't ever recognised for it. I was kind of like the floater between everybody because I didn't settle in. Like I kind of like, it's like a weird introvert kind of like way. Like I didn't want to let anybody know the real me or whatnot. I was easily triggered. So I kind of like, I played football with these guys one day, or socialised with these guys. But this was the first time people wanted my company, and I didn't know why. I really didn't. I just didn't see why, because all I did was party, and just felt like I needed to act the goat to impress them. And this coach saw right through me, and he saw that I was a boy trying to be a man, but I wasn't. And then it came to the second season, to the next year again. Still kind of this. I'd not got any kind of sense of home. My entire belongings lived in a bag. I just carried that bag to wherever I was staying. And it was like a second year, I didn't go back to the American football team. I went to go and try and play football, and the coach was raging. He was really annoyed at me, and I felt like I'd let him down. But I realised I didn't like the football team, and I actually really liked what the American football team brought to me. So I went back to the American football team midway through the season, and that year I got MVP, most valuable player for the team. I had a trial for Great Britain at the end of the year to go and give my best, to be honest. But I was against proper men. Like I got there in talent, not hard work. I was good. I understood what was going on. Uni was a great thing, but it was a hard thing for me as well, because I didn't really feel comfortable being me. I was still in this kind of like scope. My family, it was just to paint a picture. It was my 21st birthday. And this is what's going on personally. that nobody knew. It was my 21st birthday, and I arranged to go for a pint with my dad. But my mum had organised a surprise party, and I had to then tell my dad, I can't meet you for a pint. And it was just like one to the other, and it just got off of me. And that's why I just escaped and just party, party, party. And at the end of that, my third year of uni, in the off season of American football, I went to play football just to kind of keep myself fit. And that was where probably the hardest moment of my life happened, where I went to play a game and jumped up for a header, and I had a late tackle coming in. I do not blame the guy for what happened, but I ended up being in crutches for 3 years with this tackle. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was horrible. I got taken to hospital. I had my mother holding this hand, my father holding this hand, not talking. And I was just like, guys, I'm in enough pain. Like, if you're not going to be civil, just leave me. I needed, because it was rotten. The injury I had was a ACL tear.
Yeah.
And it was bad, but the issue was that I was told it was just a sprain. And so I did all the recovery for a sprain. It went again.
Yeah.
And then again, and then again. And then before I know it, I needed surgery. But you tell somebody who doesn't know themselves, who is at the tail end of like their second year in crutches, and the doctor says, oh, you're going to have surgery on it and a year's of recovery, and you're not going to be able to play sport again. And I was just like, what? I don't know anything else. Everything was all about getting back to sport. Everything was all about getting myself back to. And I had nothing, like literally nothing. Everybody's telling me that I should be dropping out of uni. Everybody was telling me that I'm working 3 jobs just to support myself. I was just running on fumes, and suddenly the one thing of hope that I had of joy was gone. I was just like, I hit this rock bottom heap. I didn't feel at home. I didn't feel comfortable. So I partied. I just drank and partied and kept on going. And it wasn't until my big sister had a daughter, and she was crawling about my feet. I was hungover and I couldn't even do anything with her. And I was just like, I need to change. So I gave up one of my jobs. I gave up the nightclub. So I was no longer working, going to uni, coaching swimming 6 till 8, and then working in the nightclub from 8 till 3 in the morning, waking up the next morning, 9 till 8, 9 till 1, coaching swimming, then working in Tesco, 3 till 5, and then working the nightclub all the way through. That was my life. I gave up the nightclub, and financially I was just like, I'm going to fail. I had no money. I was spending everything that was coming in. I was afraid. And then that was a big thing for me. So I focused on more hours coaching swimming, and I started to build a connection with a delightful young woman who we just started chatting, and yeah, kind of like I ended up asking her out on a date. She actually messaged her best mate to say, oh no, Cammy's asked me out on a date. But it was brilliant. It just kind of let me start to kind of build the momentum back into kind of feeling a bit more like me again. The issue that came off was my family were really stressed. My mother really stressed. And I was only seeing this person for maybe about 3-4 months. And me and my mother had a bit of a squirrel, and she said, just go. Thankfully, Elizabeth brought me in, and I stayed with Elizabeth's family. And yeah, it was quite hard because, again, Elizabeth's family have always been so supportive of me, and it's been hard because it wasn't family. I was getting to know them as family, and yeah, so I stayed with them, and then that's when I started to kind of like get into training, and I went to the gym for the first time, and I didn't want to look weak. I'd done 5 bodyweight squats, and I had DOMs for about 5 weeks afterwards. It was brutal, but I just kind of was like, nah, I can do something here. I can do something with me. And then I met a trainer who was opening up their own personal wee gym, and I started training alongside them, and yeah, I just loved it. I went and got my qualifications, and that was like kind of how I got into building my career. And I mean, that took me down roads where I was working every hour under the sun because I had this addiction to work.
Yeah.
Being the busy person, burning out, getting physically ill from burning out.
I think you've always had that though, Cammy, from what you've already done previously. I think you're quite an extreme person from what you know this. I was going to ask you actually, what whilst it's on my mind, is what made you want to work 3 jobs? I know you said about the financial side, but there is so many people out there that still fear that but will not work. So I just wondered what made you do it. Was that giving you some purpose? Or I just wondered what it was, the reason.
It's an escape, honestly. Like when you're
Right.
uncomfortable and you feel like you're getting fulfillment from somebody else, you don't have to focus on you. If you're not happy, if you're not like feeling good, doing something that can serve somebody else is like a fulfilling thing. Like I loved coaching swimming. Honestly, it was great. Seeing the kids coming in and it was just amazing. Just coming in. Like, here's a wee one for you. Like, this is how much of like a game face that I always loved. Kid came in and they said to me, it's like, Cammy, I need to get a picture of you. Like you and me. And she's standing there in her swimming costume. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely not. And then she goes, my dad says it's okay. And I'm like, no. She's like, you speak to my dad. And at the end of the session, she took me over to speak to her dad, and her dad says, did she tell you what she was wanting? And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure we can get a picture. It's just, I'm not sure it's allowed. And he goes, did you tell him what it's for? And then she was like, no. And then, tell him what it's for. And she said, we're to write about our hero, and I chose you. And it was our homework for school. So I was just like, it warmed my heart. But it was that fulfillment when you're helping people have a good time. And it's that addiction to helping people have a good time, even in the nightclub, have a good time. Anytime I do something, I just want to be the best. At Tesco, I wanted to be the best at the job. When I was coaching something, I wanted to be the best. And I thought that's how you progress in things. I genuinely thought, if I'm the best at what I do, I'm going to go far. I'm going to get there. But that's not that gets you moving forward.
Yeah. No, of course.
Being the best is really good. It is. But a manager who has the best team, best people in the job, is doing the best manager job. And that's where it's not that they're holding you back. You're just in a role you're doing great in. And if you're not happy with that, then learn the experience of what the next role is.
Yeah. So no, this is so good, Cammy. This is so good because obviously you can tell anyway, just the way you've spoken about. I mean, gosh, I could ask you so many questions, to be honest, because I think you was talking for a good 15 minutes solid or something. But it was great. It was so good. But I just want to relay a little bit back on just what I heard, and just so the audience are tuning in and understanding as well, is that, you know, this is just what I heard, is that you toned down the bullying aspect. You got spat on, you got bullied, but you was great at sport. That was your way in. You know, it kind of clear to see that you maybe felt that you just didn't fit in. So you had to find a way to fit into something. Sport was your way in, right? But the reality is the bullying still affected you, but you didn't want to react to create any sort of chaos or anybody, create a fight, whatever it may be. So you wanted to just dim that. But still, it's going to affect you. No matter what, it's going to be bottled up. It's going to be tense. There's going to be an explosion or some sort of spillover at some stage. However, the sport was your kind of thing. Obviously, not only that was in school time. You then came home to a bit of chaos as well with family life. It wasn't, you had this unit, you had this, good family support, still do, but it just got tore away from you in an instant. Then you wanted to numb that. There was pain there. There was a lot of pain there. You numbed it. Obviously, like you say, you got on the uni life, you escaped, you didn't know where you was living. Obviously, you went down the alcohol route. You kind of had some sort of a coping mechanism with it, but then you still found you come back to sport. That seemed to be your anchor through your way of feeling, your emotions and how you felt. You noticed that you're really great at that. Obviously, one of your jobs was in sport, swimming. And I think for me, obviously, you've got that hardworking mentality. And this is what, obviously, I want people to hear about, is that that's an absolute unbelievable skill to have. Could I just ask, did you develop that hardworking skill? Or do you feel that was, you was kind of born with it? Or would you say that was kind of just what you was brought up to, or brought in and around your environment at home, that hardworking mentality?
So I have theories. I don't really know if I'm honest, but one thing I do know is that people often talk about dyslexia and things like this, and dyslexia is something that I didn't really know that I was struggling with. But when you're told that you're thick or you're
right.
not, intelligent, and it's like it doesn't mean anything. Like, not people don't mean it, but you take it to heart. You naturally want to do better. Because I was like very kind of like I held in a lot of emotions from a young age.
Mm.
I always, anytime I got my homework in and it came back with red marks, I was just like, oh, for goodness sake. You try a wee bit harder because you don't want that, because you feel like you need to do it again. And it's the constant repetition. You expect to have to redo it. You expect it to be not right. You expect it. In a work capacity, if you work something and if I can use my hands, well, I'm going to be better at it if I can use my hands, because I don't have to get people to read my hieroglyphics or whatever it's. But I'm like,
yeah.
The work ethic side of things, like my dad was a workhorse as well. Like, he just morning, noon, and night. My dad's my best mate. Like, I genuinely, I see it. Like, he's unbelievable, and I love my mum. Like, my mother is the exact same. I got a brilliant relationship with them. Like, they're both amazing. They both had challenges and struggles, and did they deal with them the best possible way? No. But see, now I speak to them more now as like adult. And that's the thing. I think the conflict that my mum and I had was down to neither of us were in a good place to kind of get by in a situation. Neither of us handled it well, and that's why things kind of like we all needed support, but nobody was like stepping up into making support. I was the mediator of everything, and I just couldn't do it. Like, I can't do it because I was giving everything to everything.
Yeah.
So like that drive, I guess is self-efficacy to an extent, is like the will to win. And I feel like sport is a massive part of it. I do feel like sport helps you in so many different life lessons, because you learn that if you're losing, the object is not to just win, it's to get back to then see if you can win. But if you're constantly losing, you need to do something different. What can you do differently? I was in some teams where we were getting pummeled 20-0. That's not fun. So what
No.
can you do differently? And you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
just expand the team, but if you learn to do something different, you become better. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
No, it does. I think you've obviously got that within you, obviously from so many different avenues. I think obviously what I'm learning from hearing you is that it's been part of your life for so long now. I know, and we always talk about this, you hear this quote, don't work harder, work smarter, right? Now, obviously, when you're young, everybody says it, your body can just keep going and going. Like you say, you lived off 3 hours, so you could do 3 jobs, Probably not now in your life, right? You wouldn't want to even, you couldn't even think of anything worse. You'd be like, gosh, if I do 4 hours, I'm knackered, that kind of feeling. But, with all that build up, because there's a lot of build up that I know it's only a highlight of what you've shared, but there's a lot of sort of build up of like, there's going to be a breaking point. Was there? So when you say you went into fitness industry, worked all the hours in the day, you was talking just right at the back end of when I started obviously questioning you about, you said there was burnout and stuff like that. What was the breaking point in your career, and what did you do as a result of that breaking point?
yeah, so there was like multiple breaking points. So first one,
Yeah.
like, because do you learn it first time? No. But the first one was I was sitting on the sofa and I fallen asleep in Elizabeth, and she did say to me, like, this isn't working right now. And I was just like, okay, I'm in a job that I'm actually finding, like, I feel like I enjoy. I'm enjoying it. I'm working everywhere under the sun, but this isn't working. So I needed to change what my priorities were and start adapting things. But that had a knock-on effect. Now, the gym that I was in, I loved. I was paying my rent. I was working hours for them. I rent paid my hours. So therefore, they couldn't not have me doing this. And it meant as soon as I said I needed to take a step back because I'm not well, it had a rift. I'm no longer with supporting this. And it took a bit of a knock. And it got a wee bit toxic, to be honest. Like, a wee bit, actually got very toxic. And it was to the point where I was late for my house viewing because I had to cover for a class. I was late for picking up my keys for the house the week later. It was just toxic, and I had to leave. And that was the first time where, like, I had to rebuild my business. I went to a different gym, and because everything was like, it's okay, you can carry on. But then suddenly on the day, it just became really bitter and no, it's not happening. And I had to rebuild my business all over. And that scared me because I'm afraid of failing. So
Yeah.
what do? Well, you ignore the first lesson you did. You don't do anything different. You jump back in and you do the exact same again. But this time I was in a different gym where I was only allowed to spend a certain amount of time with people. I was like in and out. I was a number. I was told I'm just a PT. And don't get me wrong, like it was a much healthier environment, but it was always number driven and I didn't enjoy it. And then a phenomenal thing called COVID kicked off. And yeah, you need to learn how to do it all over again. In fact, sorry, I do have a wee soppy story for you, which is just before COVID kicked in, because I was aware of I was aware that I was falling back into old ways.
Right.
And this is probably, if I was to kind of give something to somebody today, it would be this message. I wanted to launch an online coaching program for the first time. And this was not a big, massive online coaching program. We're talking like 60 quid or something like that. And it wasn't a massive, like, big thing. But I wanted to launch this. And I said to the coach I had at the time, the money I raised for this, I'm going to buy an engagement ring. And
beautiful, mate.
yeah, I was like, I've got a real why I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. So I went out and I hand posted 2,000 like leaflets indoors, like literally just out with the times that I was training, working, supporting, peeing it down with rain. It was like 10 o'clock at night and I'm out hand posting these leaflets. And I remember I finished it and I said, I've handed all these letters. I came back and I was just like, right, that's it, done. Okay, now it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Nobody signed up. And what I realized was that you can have an idea, but it won't take off first time. And that's okay. You don't just stop because you change things. COVID kicked off and everything changed. And I learned how to change, what to do, adapt. I'm married now. I've got a kid. And honestly, things have been up and down, but I've actually like changed what I'm doing, who I'm doing, and how things are going. And it's been a roller coaster. Like the last like 6 years have been really fast for me, but I'm only just learning to actually settle in my own house. Like genuinely, you always worry. There's moments in time in business where you're sitting there thinking, going, "This is all going to cave in. This is literally, I'm going to lose it. This is all going to collapse." I wake up every single morning thinking I'm going to lose everything just because of my previous history. But I was on a call once with somebody, and they said this amazing thing that I absolutely loved. And they said you need to take responsibility for things. And I was just like, it's a bit harsh. It's really harsh.
Yeah.
But if you break responsibility down just a second into two different words, you've got your ability.
Yeah.
You've got your response. What are the things that your ability? And that's why you launch a business, is because you know you're good enough at what you're doing. You know what to do. You know how you're doing it. You're delivering it in the best possible way. You're great at that. When your energy levels are low, you're maybe not doing that to your best. So protect your energy, because your ability to deliver, to do, you've been doing that for years. Yeah. So why am I doubting myself? Because my energy levels are low. Right. Well, response, what you're responding to. And if it's a life of reactivity because you don't have any time, you're not valuing yourself enough, you're not doing anything for yourself, you're creating the actual issue of not being able to get the most out of you, because you're giving yourself this much energy to go into your job. You're giving yourself this much appreciation, which means you're pouring from an empty cup.
Mm.
And that's when I realized that I was creating burnout, not because of what I was doing. I was so worried about losing things instead of appreciating what I've already got and building from the ground up. I was in the first time of my life where I'm building my own family. I've gone through multiple rounds of therapy just to kind of really just appreciate me as a person, rather than actually have this appreciation based on other people appreciating what I'm doing. And as a business owner, who you are, knowing who you are, is your secret weapon, because it's your ability just to know your customers' names, their family, and they know you. They know how we are. And it's like you connect with them so much better. Your customers, like, I don't like using the word client because I feel it's a number, but customers, like, are people who engage and interact with you. It's like they are people who see what you do and they're inspired. Yeah, and like that inspiration is why they want to take interest in how to move forward. And if you're building a business, you need to get good at building relationships with those people around you, because that's what it is there for you. And it's like, when it comes to like moving forward, learning boundaries is like is a hard thing as a business owner. Like, it's a really hard thing, because every brain in your like thought in your brain tells you, I need to keep going, but your tank's this full. Yeah. Whereas when you break business down into financial, which most people base business on, like, I needed to take financial out the equation. It ruined me. And I know that we were speaking previously about like possibly where that came from, but for me, I base my business on its personal, its delivery, and its marketing. That's where I kind of set my goals on. Like, personally, what are my goals? Because that's what people are interested in, on what kind of person am I engaging with in a fitness side of things. On a delivery aspect, it's like, what are the goals and ambitions I want to deliver people towards? How can I help better? What can I do? What are the goals for that? And on a marketing level, that's not about how can you bring in, but how can you meet and greet more people to actually see that there's a world out there. And it may not be with myself, yourself, or whoever. It's just, there's opportunity to create that and connect with that. And you're providing an invitation to go and do something about what they actually have. And especially in business, a lot of time, we don't want to talk about when we're struggling about things personally. So we deliver harder and we put everything into that professional bucket. And then personally, it takes its toll. Your health goes in the bin. Like, you're getting up later. You're starting to drink a little bit more. Diet goes out all over the place, and your personal standards and well-being that drive you are suddenly just kind of like lackluster. You're disorientated, and you stop celebrating the micro wins because you need bigger wins. But actually, the micro wins are your basic Maslow. Take care of you. Take care of who you are and be who you are, because that's what drives the business for where you want it to go, and that aspiration. Because if not, you just end up numb. I don't. Have you ever felt that numbness where you just feel like, I don't know if it's coming or going?
Yeah, listen, I've been lost, been numb to certain scenarios, numb to when clients, I know you said that the humans aren't there, but when they leave and you just like, whatever, I've been there, I've been in that whatever mindset and just can't be bothered and hide and isolate. Yeah, I've definitely been there. But I mean, Cammy, it's so good what you're sharing, man, because I mean, guys, again, just listening in, obviously you're hearing Cammy's sort of like depth to his story. I think it's clear to see and know just from what you've shared that you've been through both sides. Like, you've experienced the lows and you've also experienced the highs, or what people would deem as a high. Like, you're kind of going home to Elizabeth, you're on sofa falling asleep. She's there talking outside perspective. This is not working. And you're going, excuse me, I've found my passion here. I love this.
Yeah.
But because you're so used to that work hard, and that hours and shift, and yeah, but this is what I love, right? Then as soon as you decide to buckle up the courage to make a change and set a boundary in place, if we talk about boundaries, this is what's really important as what I'm hearing from you, is how you've been able to take responsibility and make a choice or a commitment and follow through with it. And it's upset people. They've been toxic. They've thought, oh, he's not bothered anymore. Maybe then you feel like you're letting people down. You're going to upset people. You're going to upset people. You then, okay, no problem, moved along. You've then taken initiative. You've had a drive factor to have an engagement ring. I've got a deep burning question though for you, Cammy. How did you raise the funds then, if it weren't from the online program?
I redone it. I done it better. I learned. It's like,
so you got the funds.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! I'm sure that's what everyone's doing. Like, did you get the funds? How did you do it? Oh, yeah. That's brilliant, mate. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. I see. Again, like I said, like, I never give in, and you need that. You need that, because you're going to hit those tough periods where, like, it feels like you've got the newbie wins where things are going really well, And then you get really, really busy. And then what happens is you need to start doing things that are going to be different for yourself to grow. Because when you're starting off, it can be quite messy. You're just kind of like constant hamster in a wheel because you're learning. But again, it's like simple things. Like, see, when it comes to employment, there's some things that are really great about it, but there's also some things that are very negative about it. Employment, you have SOPs, like standard operating procedures. When you're self-employed, that is not a thing. It is genuinely what comes to your mind gets done. Bang. Especially at the start. But getting good at creating things that can help bring law and order to a chaotic mind. And I've literally, my relentlessness was what got the engagement ring. Like, it was genuinely, it wasn't because I'd done things well. It was because we go again. Right, let's do it better.
So I just sorry to stop you there, mate. But you said you feared failure, but you still kept going. So what was the shift there? What was going on inside of your mind and body to just keep going?
Because if you stop, you fail. If you keep going, you're not failing. You're just fighting. Failure is when you just give up, and that's when you hit rock bottom. Like the moment you decide to stop moving is the moment you start getting unfit. I've been there. Like, I sat there, I listened to the doctor. They told me you can't do sport. It took me about 6 months of drinking to kind of just go.
Yeah.
I gave up. Whereas I'm now fitter than I've ever been. I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm more able than I've ever been. I even got back to playing five-a-sides. I broke my ankle last year playing five-a-sides. But
Gosh,
that was literally just one of those ones where it's like...
can happen though.
Yeah. But again, like, I am afraid of failure. But like, sometimes we create what we think is failure. But it's not. Like, we create like a feeling of, because we're not really sure of discomfort. And I like going through therapy, I realized that I just suppressed every single emotion. So if I felt a negative emotion, I got rage because I was just like, I shouldn't feel like this. I didn't know any kind of emotion. I didn't know anything about emotions. If I felt sad, I was angry. And then I was angry because I was sad. And then I was sad because I was going to get angry again. And then I was happy because something was happening. And then I was sad because I was going to get angry again. And I just kind of went through this constant cycle, but I always suppressed it. I never took it out on anybody. I never took it out on anything. But that's where I went and trained. Training was like that one place where I could just, I'm present. And like, it's learning like my emotions. I actually had to create a bit of a roadmap. And like, I wake up every single morning thinking I'm going to lose everything. And then I have to do some groundwork, just base level. Now, prior to having Jessica, it was a lot harder. I did all the journaling. It took me like a 4-hour morning routine to get me ready to go to work so that I can actually feel calm for going into the day. Nervous wreck. But see, now that I've got Jessica, I sit and I've got every single riches in the world, just having a hug and having a coffee with her, just chilling. It's great. It's slowing me right the way down because I realised I was afraid of losing something I didn't have. My ambition, what I want, but I never actually focuses on what I can do on a day-to-day basis. Saying what you want is great. Everybody can say that. But instead of saying I want, start saying I can. Because you know where you're going. You always know. Everybody has that idea of where they want to go. So say, so I can. And suddenly you've got your day-to-day actions. I want to improve my business. So I can. And then you've got your day-to-day actions that help you with that. And do these daily. Like, it allows you just to kind of normalize. If you want to grow your audience, so I can speak to people. Okay. Don't be afraid of speaking to people. Like, don't be afraid of communicating to people. Allow yourself just to, because that's where it just allows you just to move forward, just that momentum. Like, I was afraid of doing something wrong. We spoke about it, not having a niche, not having a message, not having all this. And I was like, I'm getting lost here. And I'm losing people skills that are just natural to me. And it's not that I've made it, but I'm not using my natural growing strengths of who I am, because there's methods, means and whatnot to kind of go about doing things. But I can tell you this right now, you'll never catch me dancing on social media with a pointing finger at words and whatnot
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's not who I am.
No, no.
And you
Yeah,
lose
I can
that.
tell that.
And when you start to kind of like focus on who you are, like you start to realize that who you are is you like things that are for you. A lesson I learned on a day-to-day basis. You've got like kind of like you can control your physical energy levels, yeah, and your physical energy levels are like based on your sleep pattern, your nutrition, your training volume. You dysregulate them, you just feel tired. But emotional batteries, when you've got stress of business kind of going on and in life, if your emotional batteries are in the bin, you need to make sure you do things that uplift you and that make you feel really good. It doesn't mean you have to go wild and party and get fixated in the weekend, but actually just the simple things that help you slow down. Appreciate maybe reading a book. Appreciate maybe going standing in your garden having a coffee. And for the world's gone mad for cold tubs, yeah. So it might be go sit in a cold tub, yeah. Then also as well, look at the experiences you're having as well, because it's easy to get caught up in the stress and hustle and bustle, and then not do anything other than get up and then go again, because your habituation pattern of constant repeat, getting up, going to war, you don't break the cycle of doing anything different, so you expect the same tomorrow. So learn to break your chain, like do something a little bit different, think a little bit different, network with people, speak to people, because when you do that, it's ferocious what you can achieve, because you think, I can do this. I really can. You're more humble. Everybody's equal. Cut us open. Look, we're more made of the same stuff. How you portray a message is different, but it's beliefs on how you've learned and picked up. It's the understanding of knowledge. It's your ability to relay that on. But everybody's equal.
Yeah.
Like,
Mad in it.
but again, you see, when, like, there's all the different things that you like, the motivational quotes, and I didn't get what they were going to. And like, it's like you don't have to be the best coach in the world. You just have to be the best coach in your client's world. And I do firmly believe that. But quotes are one thing, but it's actually you personally, your environment of like who you are and what you're doing for yourself is like what drives every success you have, regardless of anything. Like I'm not the most successful person in the world. I don't even pretend to be. But do you know what? I'm the most successful person in my world. That's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Oh man, listen, I do really love all of this. I'm like nodding my head and I'm just, there's a lot of things going around in my mind as you're talking. And first of all, massive respect on where you are now, because it's very, very clear to see that you've invested in your identity, and finding out who you are as a person. The theme of this podcast, I believe, from what you've shared, is always who you are. Is who you are. It's personal. It's who you are. That's come back around quite a lot. So that's something that I've felt from you, which, by the way, I completely agree with. And do you know what? I think this is going to be good to kind of just go into in just a second, because there is a lot of people, and I know people listening to this episode as well, if they'd be really honest, brutally honest with themselves, probably look in a mirror and ask themselves, am I being truly authentic in every area of my life? Or am I filtering? Or have I got a mask on in some areas? Am I being true to myself? Probably some people, well, probably most people, I'm not being true. I'm making it. I'm hiding, or I'm putting a mask on. Or I'm trying to please people, whatever that may be. So I would love to know who has been, and I say who has been the biggest influence, or the person that's helped you truly become who you are, and allow that to flourish with no limitations, no judgment. You can be your true self.
It's hands down. It's my dad.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, hands down. I wake up with this fear of losing everything, like every single day, because I know what it is now. Losing your family is like my biggest fear. Like, and I speak to my dad every single day, and I was the one that got him back together with my wee brother and sister. My dad and my big sister, they don't talk. My mum and dad don't talk, and it was our wedding. Like, it was the night before our wedding, and all the families were meant to meet together. None of my family turned up, and I was absolutely devastated. And it was hard. Like, it was really hard. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
emotional about it now, but My mother's inspirational, and I honestly, I love her. I don't blame anyone in my family. I know it's a discomfort. I know it's hard. I appreciate that, and I appreciate every single one of them for coming to the wedding and supporting us. It was amazing. There's no issues, absolutely none. The reason that my dad is because he just talks about truthfully what everything is, and he just wants the best for his kids to just go and do their best. And yeah, he's taught me so much in inadvertent ways. I hear his voice. I don't need to hear much. I just hear his voice, and it's just like he's seen sense. And he's moved out to the Middle East, and he's doing great for himself. I go out and see him once a year and whatnot. But once a year that I get to see him is it's a weird feeling. It's not a holiday. It's actually I'm getting to go and spend time with. It's what I hope that Jessica gets whenever she spends time with me. Maybe not so much. I mean, she's probably gets annoyed at me, but it's it's just connection, and he literally just wants me to. He once said to me when I was going through a bit of a crossover of who I was, and he goes, "Don't stop being a nice guy." And I always thought being a nice guy was my biggest weakness. And nice guys finish last. People please.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
And he just told me, he's just like, don't stop being a nice guy. Always be a nice guy. It will come to the top. And I just thought all these emotions I was feeling was wrong because I was just like rock bottom. I'm always pleasing everybody else, but rock bottom. Like I was helping other people and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, nah. And I was just angry. And it wasn't until actually I'd done a lot of deeper work. And I genuinely, I don't know if like many people know how much struggle I was having. And like when I went to therapy, like I actually turned up and they just asked me something similar to yourself. It's like, so tell me about your story.
Yeah.
I spotted it out. And they said to me, has anybody ever spoken to you about anxiety and depression? I was like, no. And they're like, I think you've been struggling with this. And I just get tired. I'm all right. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, what you're experiencing is suppressing emotion because you're always trying to give. I told my dad I was struggling. I told my mother that I was struggling. And things have changed since then because I've actually started putting boundaries in play for whenever I need to start focusing more on me. But one thing about my dad is he always tells me, as it is, in a great way. He's blunt and direct, which is great. True Scottish way. But equally, it's always about helping me move forward. And don't get me wrong, like there's doubt. He doesn't want my business to fail and my family to be caught up in that bit. He's never once done something that's not for his family. He always wants to support his family, and that's where it's all from. His family's everything. It is genuinely. Everybody works to support the family, provide for the family, and sometimes it's hard because families are lost. But you don't stop loving your kids. You don't stop supporting your family. Like it always happens. It genuinely does. Everything I do from now on is about Jessica.
Yeah.
I go to Safari Park. Yeah, I love it. But I'm sitting watching her more than I am watching a lion. Like it's
of course.
just.
Yeah, I feel you, mate.
Yeah. So.
Nice. No, that's really great, mate. You could tell when you shared that there's a bit of emotion there, but also how important the role of your dad is. You said earlier on he's your best mate and stuff like that, and obviously shared the wedding experience. And yeah, sorry to hear that, mate. And obviously there's things that happen, but I think how you've just recaptured that and said about how you're all together now and you've accepted and you're close again, which I think is brilliant. I think that's really good. The fact that, because some people don't, it's like the hold the grudge kind of thing. You've accepted that. But I just want to kind of go on to this last little bit before we come towards the end. You being a business owner whilst raising a daughter, because this is a big kind of road barrier for a lot of people that maybe want to start out in business. So I'd love to hear your perspective and answer the question, is because in their mind they go, maybe it's not the right time to start my business because, I've got young kids, I feel secure in my job, but I hate my job. I've got this passion that I want to do, but I just don't physically, mentally think I can fit it in at this moment in time. So just for you, what's your experience been for the last 2 years being a business owner, father, husband? With obviously.
So first things like, obviously, if you know what you know what your business is and what you're delivering for your business, doesn't matter what the product is. Know your numbers. Like, and what I mean by know your numbers is know what you need to have a roof over your head, your family, food on the table, and cover. Because when you have that, what you have above that is things that aren't really as important. Of course, we want things like the holidays. We want things like the time off. We want things like nice. But if you're creating too much pressure on the lower stages, when you're just kind of getting that familiarization, you're learning how to be a dad, you're learning when you're getting tired, sleep, and whatnot. And you're chasing the rich life now, which I feel like is probably one of the biggest problems people are facing right now, is that they've got like my first car was not an Audi A1 36 grand car that nowadays kids are driving around in.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, it's like, don't be creating too much stress on yourself. And like, again, a massive thing that like I realize is learning is giving yourself a pay rise in business isn't that you just suddenly work yourself into the ground. It's actually you learn what's the next kind of target you're aiming for. If it doesn't always work that you hit that every single month, you're going to have low, you're going to have high. And somebody once said to me, a low finance month isn't a low mental health month. What there is a significant difference. You're feeling the stress and pressure from that, but your bank balance isn't your mental health. You can still do all the things that help you improve your mental health, like sleeping well, eating well, like spending downtime, journaling, all these kind of things. You can still do all these things, but you're choosing to fixate on other things. So if you're wanting to launch a business, know the numbers that you need to hit for you to actually set your targets, and then set an action plan to go about doing these things. And again, like the one thing like you need to remember is that you're not entitled to like the limitless progressions. We need to work towards getting that. But the core product, whenever a business is at its lowest point and its highest point, is always the same. It's always like the same delivery. It's the same streamline all the way through. It doesn't matter how successful you are. If you lose that, you lose who you are because you're focusing on something else. It's always about you as a person. The person coming in the door first thing in the morning gets the same treatment as the person last thing at night. And there might be times that you're working long hours and people talk about knowing your worth, but I feel like people don't quite know what their worth is. Like, because when you say know your worth, it sounds like there's a tangible metric that you should be transferring over and whatnot. But actually, like, knowing your worth is actually just knowing that you've got enough as it is and you're building more into it. And if you start from that core, like I genuinely have the world in this household. It's not the biggest house, it's not the fastest cars, it's not we go on holiday, it's nice. But you know what? Everything that I've got right now is amazing. So what I'm adding to it, well, it better be better than what I've got. And if it's not, then do I really need it? Then okay. I'm not going to put that pressure on myself to have these things. It's not what you have. It's who you are. Build it from there. And like that's why I would say if somebody's like launching a business, like for me, I know who I am now. Like genuinely I am dad. That's number one. Like I'm Jessica's dad, and anytime I'm super proud to say that. I say athlete because I've always wanted to class myself as an athlete, and that's why I think I love High Rocks so much, is because like they have that athletes this way, and I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'll go there.
Listen, mate, give yourself some love, man. Give yourself some credit. You definitely are an athlete, man. Anybody who does that, come on. I mean, there's different categories, but you're definitely an athlete for doing something like that.
It's amazing. I love it. And I love the community with it as well. But the third thing is a leader. And it's why I will always support, is because I will lead the way. I'm never going to sit in a room when I know there's something to be done. Get it done. Let's get it done. Because it's success is on the other side. Lead by example.
Mate, brilliant. And the thing is as well is it's very good that you've shared that, look, it's not perfect. It's not always right. The balance won't always be a balance. It's going to be up and down. And, you've shared all that, especially with financial months, up and down, business, the mindset. I mean, there's so much more, we could have kind of delved into in this episode. But Man, we're coming towards the end. Mental. It's been so much fun, and there's been so much shared, by the way, which is great. But just before we kind of get towards the end, I love asking this question. Obviously, I know you've listened to some episodes, so this will be a question you're probably familiar with, but when it gets asked, it always knocks people off guard. Cammy, what does mastering your life mean to you?
I have a moment I've dreamt about, and I know this moment, and I thought I almost had it. I've visualized, I woke up with a dream once, and this sounds really weird, but I've had this moment in my head, and I woke up the happiest I've ever been from this sleep. Like, genuinely, I just woke up, and it was like Elizabeth holding my child's hand in the sea, and I'm sitting underneath a palm tree. And I was on holiday not long ago, and I thought it was going to happen because we were going to the beach, and I'm sitting there going, this is going to be it. I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it. And it never happened. And it never happened because I was like, I'm not ready yet. But what I realized now is that, like, mastering my life is actually just fully being present at any given moment, because it doesn't matter if it's when I'm actually sitting underneath that palm tree and Elizabeth is holding Jessica's hand and they're in the sea paddling away. I'm present. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas, which I find really tough. Like, I find Christmas really tough. But I'm present. I'm allowing myself. It doesn't matter if the emotions are high, the emotions are low. Mastering my life is actually, I've got one task. I've got one thing I'm focusing on. I'm doing the one thing, and I'm giving my best to the one thing. And it may not always be the one thing I want to do right now, but I'm going to fully be the one dad in the room, the one athlete in the room, the one leader in the room. I'm going to just do one thing at a time. That's what mastering my life is all about, to be honest.
Oh, man. Brilliant. Oh, man, I bet that's so good. And that palm tree analogy as well, or that dream that you had. And that's good. And you've taken, obviously, a good positive out of that as well, a good spin on it. So thank you for sharing that. That was, and it's great to hear your perspective on it, because that is good. The presence is absolutely spot on. And we do struggle with that. And I know that for sure. So where can people find you? You know, if they listen to your story today and they're like, gosh, I want to connect with this guy, where can I find him? Let us know.
My Instagram's probably my easiest way to follow me. It's Cammy Anderson _coach. And just shoot me a follow and chat. Like, I love just connecting, just chatting. Like, genuinely, it means the world. And I'd really do appreciate everybody who's listened to this as well. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
No worries, mate. No, listen, I was literally just getting onto that point. Everything will be in the show notes where people can find you and stuff. And I just wanted to kind of close this off by saying, listen, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you today. And I appreciate you spending time on our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everybody listening.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. If you found this useful and it's provided value to you, if you don't mind, go onto my channel, tap follow, and keep in the loop for more podcast episodes like this. And if you want to go one step further, please leave us a positive review. It would mean the world to us, and it would help spread the message to many more people. And also, if you want to go that one step further again, tag us on socials, drop us a message. I will always respond. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.